yesterday. It looked like Mitchell might have had some kind of leg issue going on. Mitchell Agude, does he have a leg issue going on?
Mitchell's day-to-day. We'll see what he's doing. He went through most of practice yesterday, so.
Okay, was that something he did in practice? Just a little tweak of his leg or something?
No idea.
Okay. So he's not out necessarily for Stanford.
Nobody's out.
All right, nobody.
Nobody's out.
Martin Andrus has also been working off to the side. We haven't seen him in a game yet. What's his status?
He's right now. He's working back to get fully healthy, and we expect to see him soon.
What about Otito and Pegleg?
Same thing. Practice yesterday, and we'll see how they go the rest of the week.
Okay. How important and what's it going to take to get the run game closer to the way it was in the first 2 games versus the third game?
Depends on what Stanford does defensively in terms of how they're going to try to deploy their defensive people. We always try to be a balanced attack, but again, how the game expresses itself is we only have control over one side of that. They have control over the other side of that. So we'll see how the course of the game goes.
You expect them to implement similar things to Fresno as far as defensively?
Fresno didn't implement anything new. They played 4-3 quarters coverage, which most teams in college football play.
So their coverage was nothing.
What we thought going into the game. No, it was not. There was no revolutionary new defense we saw last Saturday. So.
David Shaw said he actually expects to have to adjust to you. He said he looks at what you set up offensively, and that he's the one who has to make the adjustments.
I think everybody makes adjustments off of everybody. I mean, you can't always look at the last couple of games and say this is what a team does. Everybody adds new wrinkles for new opponents, and that's part of the process. David offensively will do some things differently when he plays us than he did against Vanderbilt last week. And the same thing for Lance on defense. I think there'll be some things that they ran against Vanderbilt that they don't run against us. That's what game planning for every team goes, whether it's high school, college, or the NFL. It changes week to week. No one runs the same exact offense last week that they ran this week. No one runs the same exact defense that they ran because you're facing different personnel and different matchups. So.
He said yesterday that he considers you two to have very similar coaching styles in the way you prepare for a game. He said he called it similar to a tennis match, that with adjustments, kind of tweaks going on in match.
Yeah, and he's right. I mean, I've always enjoyed competing against David. He's one of my favorite coaches in football, one of my favorite people. He's just a quality person, and then he's a hell of a football coach. And I think a lot of it comes, he's got an NFL background like I have an NFL background, so there's a lot of situational work that both of our teams do, and that's the challenge in facing it, is that we know this team will be as prepared as any team that we play all season long just because of how well they're coached. So that's going to be a challenge for us.
2 years ago, you went up there and beat them. Did you get a sense of what that meant to the guys to win that game? And 11 games in a row.
Yeah, we don't ever talk about 11 games in a row because none of these guys were here for the 11 games in a row. So they were excited because we won a conference game on the road against a real quality opponent, and we never talked about it during the week. We didn't talk about it after the game. That's just not how we're wired. So.
It's your first road game. How do you prepare for something like this?
We drove around campus like 16 times in a bus and then start practice. You just got to go. It's your first game on the road. We were fortunate to play 3 home games because of how the conference schedule, kind of our out-of-conference schedule fell. We'll have some kids travel for the first time, but it is a veteran team. Most of these kids have traveled. Most of our kids that are playing were here last year. There's a couple freshmen that I think they're individual position coaches. We'll just talk to them about the protocols, but we keep the same schedule when we go on the road, so we meet at the same time. We eat at the same time. All those things are different. The only difference is instead of our guys doing it here in our meeting rooms right here on campus, we'll be doing it at the hotel that we're staying at up in Palo Alto. So besides that, the schedule will stay the same. So we try not to disrupt them from that standpoint. So I don't anticipate any issues. So.
Have you ever been in a situation like Stanford is in? This is their first home game in 600 days because they played their last 4 on the road last year and their first 3 on the road this year. Have you ever been in a situation like that as a coach?
Nobody has been in this situation. No one's not played had an entire season, but didn't play in front of fans and didn't have the opportunity to play at home. So I think everybody, this whole pandemic is a thing of first for everybody. So, it's a real interesting thing. And every day you kind of see a new statistic. It's 600 days since this, it's 500 days since that. It's just part of us getting back into the groove of what it is to be a normal college football season. But again, as we talked about the other day with the COVID variant, the Delta variant out there, you still have to be conscious because I think I just saw the coach for Western Michigan is out this week because he has COVID. So, it's still something we got to be conscious of. But I don't think anybody's ever been in this situation where you've been. Would you say 600 days?
600 days.
That's interesting.
After watching the film, what did you think of Sam Marrazzo's performance, and at what point did you guys decide that he was going to get the start?
Sam did a nice job. I mean, and Sam's been a starter for us, so it was just, does he get cleared medically? And he did get cleared medically, and then from when the medical rehab is over, then it's the football rehab, because he hadn't played. He missed all spring and hadn't played since last fall. So, we had great confidence in Sam, and, when we got the go-ahead, we had kind of targeted, hopefully maybe we could get him back for the Fresno game. I think he was probably chomping at the bit during the Hawaii and the LSU games, but we're always going to err on the side of caution here and make sure he was 100% ready to go. And I thought Sam did a really nice job for us, so we're really pleased to have him back, and just gives us more depth inside. With John Gaines being able to play center, and John did in the first 2 games. Duke Clement can play center for us, so between the 3 of those guys, we feel a lot stronger about our center position.
You talk about how the guys on this team weren't here for 11 in a row, losses to Stanford, but they were here last year, pretty much all of them, for how that game went down against Stanford. Even if you don't change your coaching style because of that, is there a sense around the team they kind of want to avenge that?
No, we're not in the avenge world. Like, we look forward. So, again, success isn't a continuum, nor is failure. So, to continue to dwell and to talk about things that went on in the past, I think is just a waste of time. And so that's what we try to impress on our players. And that's just part of the thing. Going to think about last year's game is really, to me, is just a distraction. Now, we watched the film from last year's game because there's a lot of their guys back, and they didn't change coordinators. David's still running the offense, Lance is still running the defense. So we'll look at the film and we'll study that, and you see the schematical matchups that happened in that game, just as they've done the same thing for us. So that's how we kind of look at it. But we don't scratch and claw for motivation to do things, and this is a revenge game or all those other things. I just think that's a waste of energy. We're again, I'll say it again, success is not a continuum, nor is failure a continuum. Because if success was a continuum, if you won your first game, you wouldn't have a game for the rest of the season. And if you lost your first game, you'd lose every game for the rest of the season. So that kind of blows that theory out of the water. It's got to be, I have to have a great week of training. We have to have a great week of training to prepare for a really good football team, and that's what we put our emphasis on.
You guys did the yellow jerseys to honor the scout team and the history of UCLA football. Who came up with that idea?
We did it as a staff, and we did it all last year too. So it's just a continuum of what we've done.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, guys.